would be funny.
Hi, this is Christina with San Diego Real Estate Live, and I'm so excited that you are here with us today. We're with one of my favorite people, Julia from Fidelity, and I am so excited to be able to talk to you about title today. I think title is one of those things that you really can't Google a lot of in different states, and in California, what we're really talking about is just the transfer of, right, of property. But it's important to know, who pays for it, what is it, what can I do to be able to protect myself, and what to really look for when you are using a title company when selling your home or buying your home to be able to get the best customer service. Because for me, I've worked with some really great title companies, and then there's other title companies that aren't so great. So I just want to make sure that you have the points of reference to know how to make the best decision for you and your family in choosing your title company. So welcome.
Well, thank you, Christina, for so much for having me. I absolutely love this. This couldn't be better.
Isn't this fun?
I love it. It's wonderful. And it's such a great service that you're offering to your clients to be able to do this and see and interview all these wonderful professionals who really support you and your clients' transactions.
Thank you so much. I love having you on our team and helping us out.
Thank you.
So let's talk about your background first.
Sure.
I like to let everybody know who this expert is that they're talking to. You always want to make sure when you're getting information, you're getting it from a good source.
Sure.
And sometimes you need to know that. So tell everybody a little bit about your background and where you've come from and what brought you to this place here in
Sure.
life.
Well, I do have a little bit of an interesting background. I was born in South Africa. I grew up in Toronto, Canada, and I came to the United States when I was 12, and I grew up in Arizona. My starting career was in the new media and news profession, so I'm kind of used to this, and I love it because it's fun for me.
I love that.
My husband and I moved out to San Diego 20 years ago, and I needed to do something different. My mom was a real estate agent for 27 years in Scottsdale, Arizona, so I grew up doing all the same things. I have door knocked, I have sat open houses, I have called, I've done all those same strategies that real estate agents do. I did them for my mom, and when I came here, I somehow landed up in title, which was the best gig for me because most of my educational background comes from strategic business and marketing.
Right.
So it just was like the perfect fit for me, and I just took off running. And I'm very honored to work for Fidelity. It's one of the top real title companies in all of the United States. So it's just worked out fabulously for me.
I love that because I can see that in all the work that you've done for us and the details and really going over, the title report with clients. I mean, to the point where you're sending emails that have bullet points of, what to look for and what's on it, because it can be overwhelming, especially if you're not looking at these on a daily basis, which you are. And it's just, I love the service that you do for that. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Cool. And I have a great support of teams behind us, all our title officers, our escrow officers, our customer service, our farming department, our researchers. They're the ones that make me look good. I'm just really good at explaining it.
I love that. So let's start from the beginning,
Sure.
The basics of title. So what is the purpose of title?
Sure. The easiest way to explain it is it's the transfer of ownership from one owner to another. At its basic core, it is an insurance policy. It's a one-time purchase policy that's purchased at the point of the transaction. And it's a living, breathing thing. It continues on through the entire new ownership.
Okay.
The basic idea is when we transfer title from one owner to another, we're insuring the past. We're ensuring that the people who are now taking on the property as owners are not gaining any of the past liabilities, the financial liabilities of the property. So that's the kind of two parts that there are to a title policy.
Okay.
There's the financial liabilities,
Okay.
and then there's the legal description. That's what's recorded with the city and the county, and that's what we are insuring. Oftentimes on the preliminary title report or the actual policy when it becomes active is a full description of what that land is. And that's the part that we're making sure is encouraged through the title policy to be clean and provided to the new owners.
And those are the two types of title policies?
Well, the two types of title policy is the ALTA, which is the American Land Title Association, or the California Land Title Association.
Okay.
Most people, when they buy a single-family home or a condo, they're getting the ALTA homeowners policy.
Okay.
The CLTA is often used for commercial or vacant land.
Okay.
So those are the two major. You can add endorsements to them to make them even more robust.
Okay.
The CLTA, the California policy, if you wanted to use that policy and make it more robust to become an Alta policy, you can kind of upgrade, but you need to have a survey for that.
Okay.
But for most of people's general knowledge out there, you want the Alta homeowners policy.
Okay. And who pays for all of this?
That's a great question. So here in California, because every state can be different,
Okay.
In California, the sellers pay for the Alta homeowners policy.
Okay.
However, if the buyers are purchasing the property with a loan,
Okay.
then they get the lender's policy. The buyers will pay for the lender policy.
Okay.
There really aren't any lenders out there that don't want insurance because they are part of the deed of trust. The lenders have a financial investment into the policy themselves, into the land, so they want to be insured as well. So if it's all cash, then the buyers don't need a policy. So typically we say just be prepared that there's two policies, the homeowner's policy by the seller and the lender's policy by the buyer.
Okay. Could you tell our viewers what vesting is?
Sure.
Okay.
Vesting is how one takes title. That's, people get very overwhelmed by that concept. Right. It's really the name on your grant deed. It's the name of your ownership.
Okay.
And that can be taken in very, very different ways.
Okay.
We always recommend, please talk to your financial planners, please talk to your CPAs. Legally, a title company cannot tell you how to take title.
Okay.
We provide real estate agents or lenders or the consumers themselves with a nice little chart that says, here are the pros and cons, or here are the, because in the end it comes down to the tax ramifications, how you take, whether you're taking community property, if you're taking it in a trust. Those are the things you want to talk about with your financial planner or CPA.
By not giving financial advice, just more of just giving Googleability into this, what are the ways that people can take title?
Sure. Community property, joint tenants, definitely trusts. If it's an investment property, people have a tendency to look at taking the ownership into a corporation or an LLC, a limited partnership as well. So taking title really kind of depends on who the owners are and the type of property that they're buying, if it's going to be a primary residence or an investment property.
Okay. And what are some common things that come up during a transaction that you've seen that might not be, the best that we deal with on daily?
Well, we don't want to call them problems because we're always trying to solve things that come up on title. The first thing is, there are so many, here in Southern California, we have a lot of people with the same last names. So whether that's Jones or Smith or Gonzalez or Rodriguez or Nguyen or Wong, you're going to have a lot of common last names. So sometimes on the preliminary title report, the agent will say to me, it says that there's spousal support, but my client's never been married and he doesn't have kids. So then my immediate response is, what's his last name? Or of course I can look what is his last name. And then we'll say, okay, he's going to go fill out a statement of information, which is going to require his social security, and it'll clear anything off title that doesn't belong to him. So that's one. The second most common thing that we ask for is the trust. Super important. We need to know who has the right to sell the property and who has the right to the proceeds of the property. And it's not just seeing the name of the trust. We have to see the full trust so the title officers can review it and understand who those entities are so that we can actually do the right thing.
Do things pop up after the close of escrow that our listeners
on occasion? Typically, the things that will pop up are things like encroachments, where the land, the neighbor built their fence, 5 feet onto your property, and that was discovered because now they were going to put up a new fence or build a pool or do something like that. So that doesn't happen quite as often as people would think. But once again, even if it does, it's an insurance policy. So when a claim happens, just like when you get in a car accident, you file a claim. With title insurance, you file a claim, and it goes through that diligent process of understanding what is the problem and how do we solve it. The solutions can be a variety of things. So that's a can of worms I don't know we want to go down today in depth. But stay tuned for part 2.
I think going into the thought process of like buyer's agents and advice, like if you were a buyer's agent and you had a client and they were opening up escrow and title with their purchase, what advice would you give them going into it?
Well, this is the best question. This is where agents can really make a difference.
Okay.
If you are representing the buyer, please try to get an understanding of what your clients want to do with the property in the future, whether it's now or in the future. Maybe right now they're just buying the property as is, but if they wanted to put in a pool, if they wanted to put in a second story, those are the things to at least have them wrap their head around, because if there's CC&Rs and HOA or any other restrictions that are already existing on the property,
Okay.
that will let them know whether they can or cannot do those things. And you don't want to find out that you can't do something
Right.
after you've already bought it. So oftentimes what we're looking at is pools, tennis courts, pickleballs, basketball courts, things like that, where we're going to be digging up land to put something in.
Okay.
We want to know where the easements are on the property. Other times it's about how high can I go? Can I add a second story? Or is my lot zoned for an ADU? These are all the common things that come up right now.
Right. What about encroachments? Can we talk about that and kind of how that
Sure.
plays into it as well?
Sure. Encroachments can get a little sticky sometimes.
Okay.
Really what we're talking about is somebody encroaching on my property? Are they burdening my land?
Okay.
If it doesn't benefit the owner, it's a burden.
Okay.
So to accomplish dealing with any sort of encroachments, if it's been previously acknowledged through the history of the ownership or the previous owners or the previous owners,
Yes.
sometimes there's an acknowledgement that we're agreed upon by the neighbors, and that runs with the land. If it's something new that comes up, then usually on the title report it's going to be what's called an exemption.
Okay.
So we are acknowledging that there is an encroachment, and then it's up to the current sellers and the neighbors to deal with it before the new owners come in.
Okay.
If the person buys the property and there's already some existing problem, it's whether it was acknowledged. So oftentimes the best thing to do is get a survey.
Okay. So I guess this goes into the easement part of things as well. Could you explain what an easement is, and then the things to look out for easements and height restrictions and different things like that?
Sure. An easement basically is when, and we'll do the simplest ones, like the city. The city has utility, sewer, drainage. When somebody has the right to use your land, it benefits them, burdens the owner.
Right.
And it allows them to utilize the land. That could be, for an example, ingress, egress. Someone has the right to drive along your driveway to get to their property because it's behind them.
Right.
It's utilities, it's sewer, it's plumbing, it's drainage. And those most easements run along the edges typically.
Okay.
So it does, and there's within a certain amount of feet that they can be in the easement property. However, on occasion you get some things that are strange,
Okay.
So
what about plotted easements?
So when you order a preliminary title report,
Okay.
you're going to get the description of the easement. That's
Okay.
the wording that says where it's located and its purpose, who keeps it, who maintains it,
Okay.
and who's its benefit or burdening.
Okay.
The plotted easements are a map
Okay.
where you take what's known as the plat map, and then they blow it up, and you see the nice big magnified of your specific parcel of land and where on that property those easements run, and it's all color coded. So there's a legend below, and it'll say it coordinates the same numbers. So on the plotted map, it'll say item number 8, this easement for drainage, and then you can go back to your preliminary report and read it, and then you'll see where on that property it runs.
Okay.
So back to your question about the representing buyers,
Right.
if you have an idea of what they want to do, if they want to put a pool in the backyard, but that pool, they have a small backyard, they may be able to put in the pool, they may not, just because of where drainage is,
Okay.
where sewer lines run.
Right.
So those are the kinds of things that we look at.
Okay. And lastly, when a person does open up escrow and they do receive their title report from a title rep, what are the things, maybe a few things for them to expect or them to look for
Sure.
that would help them in the process, just understanding what they're receiving?
Sure. Well, typically the listing agent's going to get the preliminary title report early on. So if there's any problems, hopefully that stuff's being cleaned up.
Okay.
By the time the preliminary report gets to the buyer's agent and the buyers, then usually the title sales executive will kind of read through it and give them a summary.
Okay.
It's not necessarily red flags. We will point out if there are things that they should be aware of.
Okay.
But if there are just things they should read, every buyer's agent and buyer should read their CC&Rs if
Right.
they run on the property.
Right.
They should understand what the financial liabilities are that are with the property. Not just the loan, that loan is going to get cleared off, but property taxes, supplemental taxes, Mello-Roos, any of the other financials that are going to run with the land. That means they will be maintained with the property in perpetuity of that property.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So I thank you so much again for explaining all that. I know that that's probably a lot of information, and I feel like it's great points of reference for our clients. If they did need to get a hold of you and they needed to ask you questions, how would they reach you?
Absolutely. Anytime. Always happy to help. And my phone number is 858-519-2124.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And if you could give one last advice, I guess, the hoorah of advices to our viewers on title, just something that you think is really important for them to know that would just make the buying process easy or selling process easy, what would you advise?
Tell them to trust your great agents that you work with. Trust them to understand that they're going to help you, guide you through this process. That's what title and escrow are for, is to get you to the finish line of new ownership.
Right.
As far as title goes, I think it's just always really important to understand what you can and cannot do with the property. You may have future goals of expanding. So those are the kinds of things that you should definitely think about for the future. But we're always here to answer any questions and be a resource for any of your needs.
Thank you so much.
My
I really
pleasure.
appreciate you.
Yay!
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
We are so excited to be able to have you here and look forward to next week's interview. And make sure you like, follow, and share. This is Christina with San Diego Real Estate Live, and we are here if you ever have any questions. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye.